Welcome to the Carr Brothers with Jeff, Jack, and Jody Carr. They talk about current events, politics, community, and business. Take it away, boys.
Hi there. Welcome to the Carr Brothers Show. It's episode 163. I'm Jack.
And I'm Jeff.
And Jody sends his regrets. Everyone's got some sort of cough or bug or flu or infection going on, and Jody is still a little bit under the weather. Can't talk as well as he normally is able to.
His voice isn't as strong, which a lot of people would find that
Yes.
a little odd because normally we all have lots of voice,
Yep.
the three of us. But like you say, a lot of people have been infected with something over the last
Yes.
little while. So
So
we have a great show today.
oh yeah,
And topic of the last couple of weeks since the budget has come down, obviously, is the current government's
Veterinary Services
They say
Program.
that they're transitioning the program or trying to, but there's a lot of questions on the Veterinary Services Program for large animals in particular, and it's not a topic that that we don't know about.
Right.
We've been involved in it many times over the past, and we have a great guest right now, and we'll have a couple other guests as the show goes on, but a great guest right now, and Dr. Themens.
Yes,
Jack.
and then after that, we'll have Deanna Phalen will be on. She's with the New Brunswick Equestrian Association, and we are able to have the Minister of Agriculture, Pat Finnigan, on from his phone. So we'll have him on a little bit later as well. So yes, let's get right into
it.
Dr. Mary Ellen Themens from Dalhousie. She's the current registrar of the New Brunswick Veterinary Medical Association. 25 plus years service in this industry, and we're so pleased to have her join us to talk about this issue. Dr. Themens, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome, sir. Glad to help.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, and we had a great little chat offline earlier this week, and tell us, what does this decision by the provincial government to basically cancel over a phased-out process, but to cancel this veterinarian program?
It leaves a huge gap. As far as the lab is concerned, there's certifications that no other lab has. This isn't an analytical lab. It's a diagnostic lab. There's a pathologist there. Without that, necropsies, which are vital to find out what disease entity you have, investigations for the NBSBCA, they require a pathologist report. Disease entities, avian influenza. This lab has got accreditations that other provinces use the lab for disease submission. So it's critical. And I can't begin to say how much the loss of this will impact veterinary medicine. If we look at a disease identification, if we look at any one of a number of epidemics that could go through this province undetected, this lab is vital. And another thing is that every province, the standard is that every province have a veterinary lab. If that is withdrawn, we do not have a veterinary lab. Therefore, we're going a step behind as opposed to being in a leadership position that we are in now.
So the Premier and the Minister have said that basically New Brunswick is only one of two provinces that are not privatized. What is your response to that? And I guess it goes in line with what you said, is just because the others are doing it doesn't necessarily mean that New Brunswick needs to.
It depends on what perspective you're looking at.
Okay.
Other provinces have had infrastructure put in place. We don't have the infrastructure yet in place to fill a gap. When it comes to equine services, there are a few private practitioners that have established in the south. There is one that is looking at establishing a branch clinic in Caraquet, to the best of my knowledge. These things are gradually coming into place, but they're not here now. When it comes to production animal, there is no infrastructure. There is one member that does do dairy in Sussex, but other than that, the hobby farms, the ovine, the bovine, there is no transitioning. There's no bodies. It's not as though the private sector is in north of the Miramichi is companion animal. The transition, how do you transition these people? Their expertise is in other species. And when it comes to production animal, you're looking at, just medication withdrawal times, response times, the cost of a call. The private sector will charge for their time when they leave to the time they get on farm and back.
Mm-hmm.
When you're dealing with distances of 200 and 300 kilometers in between calls, that becomes very cost prohibitive. And especially when, I'm familiar with north of the Miramichi, you're in an economically depressed area, which has been gradually depopulated. The farms have been there, they've been there for generations, and they existed when the farm service was put in place. It's not like they chose to live here afterwards. And another issue is that people from away have established themselves now as hobby farms.
Right.
These animals, who's going to look after them?
Right. So
from an animal welfare standpoint, an animal health standpoint,
yeah,
it's a heck of a gap to fill.
It is for sure. So Doctor, right from, I guess, the budget day when these were announced, there were some private meetings in the morning of budget day with the minister and some of their staff, I guess. Has there been any indication given to the Veterinary Association of how these gaps could possibly be filled? Has there been any indication that there's a plan to transition this, or is this all been kept, I guess, quiet, or is the belief that they're undeveloped?
At this point, there has been no official notice, nothing that has been brought forward from the veterinary sector. We're all sort of in shock seeing what happened. To the best of my knowledge, there has been nothing presented to assist with the transition. There's no plan that has been divulged at this point to say, how are we moving forward? And that's the biggest issue, is how do we collectively move forward?
Right.
Private sector, public sector, if it exists in some shape or form, or if it's completely eliminated.
Right.
How do we provide services, especially in rural areas that the farms are far apart? They're not big holdings, and they existed again for 2, 3, 4 generations.
That's right.
So their cost of production is getting higher by the moment, even the cost of diesel. You ever been on a farm? You use diesel, you use grains, you use all kinds of things. These costs have gone up. So how do they absorb that and herd health, or, any kind of care for the animals?
Yeah, and as well as you mentioned as well, if it did go private, and they're private business people that are veterinarians, as you mentioned, the vast rural nature of our province, just based on the numbers, it would, if you're in business, it makes more sense to go where the business is, where you have more farms, rather than driving 200 kilometers. How many more visits could you do in that span of a time versus just driving to a farm? So it's quite a disadvantage for rural New Brunswick, for farms that are further away than where the veterinarians would be.
It's again, privatization implies that it's profit oriented.
Right.
Just to be clear, the provincial vet service, the participants, the animal owners did pay fees.
Yes.
They did. This was not a free service by any means. And the fees were established on a cost recovery basis. This is not something that the taxpayer was underwriting 100%. These people were paying a fee for service. And the In other provinces, what has happened is that the companion animal segment subsidizes the production animal. There's, you have a mixed practice. So the companion animal brings in a certain revenue, the production animal brings in a certain revenue, and there's subsidies from the governments for mileage or, some other incentive. Unfortunately, this isn't something you can throw money at.
Yeah,
bodies.
You were mentioning that, like other sort of medical industries in healthcare, that it's not just money. It's also having skilled veterinarians available and being able to even provide the service, having the bodies, as you mentioned.
It is, it's boots on the ground. A lot of the younger graduates are not choosing production animal. Again, cost, distance, wear and tear on yourself. I mean, unless you've been on call and you know what it's like driving that country road at 2:00 in the morning in a snowstorm, you don't fully appreciate what these members are doing.
And what do you? Yeah, I was just going to say, what are you hearing from the members? First off, is it 20 veterinarians that are affected? Is it 29? How many veterinarians are affected, and what are you hearing from?
Off the top of my head, I'd say that there's 18 in the field, and then you've got a pathologist. There might be one or two others that are affected. You've got the ancillary staff, the lab staff. I believe the number in total would be 29 people affected, but the actual veterinarian component, I would believe, would be closer to 18 to 20. And these people, again, there's an expertise there. You just don't get a veterinary pathologist overnight. They have to be recruited, and they're in high demand. And the same thing for production animal veterinarians, they're in high demand. So if we lose these people, it's not as though the private sector has a whole lot of replacements at the beck and call.
Right.
So again, it's early days. We don't know what has been, what brought this about, and what do people have as contingency.
Right.
It's not a matter of public versus private. It's a matter of how do these services actually get to the consumer, and how do we protect what we have?
Yep. And oftentimes we've seen it time and time again that when governments come out and make these statements without revealing a plan or trying to develop a plan with the stakeholders, individuals that are in the system, like in this case veterinarians, they just start looking for other regions to go to work in. They have to protect their livelihood and they have to move forward. So without government conveying the plan to the public, on the health perspective as well as the companion perspective and the large animals, but to their employees as well. If they're not conveying that plan, the employees are looking elsewhere for employment. And we've seen this time and time again. We've seen this topic come back to government many times. So, I guess the pattern is for government to break that cycle of not including the people in the system when they're making these statements, and convey that proper plan on how to move forward. Will everybody be involved? Will there be a backstop? And they've kind of failed on this part of it, I think. And like you say, it's so hard to recruit and retain people in the system to start with. Now they're at risk of leaking people to other regions.
Again, I can only speak as a rural practitioner. I've been 44 years in the industry. I had 25 years on council. So I can say that, I've seen a lot of good people be on farm. I've seen some people that, they're part of the community.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not you're doing companion animal, whether or not you're doing equine or bovine, if you're in a rural setting, you're part of the community. And being part of the community, when you're told you're no longer wanted or needed, it's a hell of an adjustment.
Right.
And again, these people work hard.
They do.
Yeah,
they do.
People,
and we've
whether
seen
or not you be in companion or private sector,
Yep.
the veterinarians right there now are stretched to the limit.
Yep. And
they're giving their utmost in order to provide some service, especially in the rural areas. It's more challenging, and economics is playing a definite role.
And Dr. Themens, what would you like to see happen? I guess we can't control last week how this was announced, but what would you like to see happen moving forward with this issue?
Preserve the lab.
Preserve the lab, yeah.
Preserve the lab. At all costs, preserve that lab. There is nothing in the pipeline that has those certifications. These certifications take years. It's not something you can say, okay, I've got an analytical lab, I'm going to get ISO certification tomorrow. It takes years, and there's a huge difference between an analytical lab and a diagnostic lab. Mm-hmm. And we need that infrastructure. And the thing is that this can be cost effective. It can be run as a business. It's not something that has to be a drain necessarily. When we use the lab, there are fees. Mm-hmm. We pay fees.
That's right.
If we send in a disease submission, there are fees. But when I look at things like rabies, mm-hmm. These are zoonotic, it's a zoonotic disease that there is no cure for. Mm-hmm. And you're taking that coordination away from us. You're taking, disease entities like avian influenza. We need that infrastructure. Absolutely. And again, why would we be the only province in Canada without a provincial vet lab? So preserve the lab.
Absolutely.
And
as far as the field veterinarians, it's going to be an adjustment, and without a concrete directive as to how a transition is going to take in place, we're working in the dark. It's supposition. Are there going to be incentives to set up a practice? Can, a veterinarian go in with an established companion animal practice and use that as a base? The actual inventory that the government has, the trucks, the inventory, are they going to offer that to the current veterinarians? Because what can they do with it? Right. There are things that there are a lot more questions than there are answers right now. Mm-hmm. And there has to be a reason why this was brought into the budget. And when I see figures that are quoted by Minister Finnigan, I question, where were they obtained? Because 72%, what is the definition of livestock under his definition? That, if you read what was written, it's as though the government, the public was subsidizing companion animal. They were subsidizing pets, pot-bellied pigs or whatever. Mm-hmm. Pot-bellied pigs haven't been touched from the department side for a while. Mm-hmm. And horses are still covered under they're in the definition of livestock in the Livestock Act that was just revised last year. So, what's the definition that gave that 72 point whatever percent? Right. Because the veterinarians I know that are in the field, they're doing health checks, they're doing C-sections, they're providing, herd health. They're not just going to a hobby farm and seeing one horse.
Right.
And even at that, if you're taking away these services to, let's say, people that have goats, these products go to our farmers markets. These products,
right?
Well, goat meat is now a commodity.
Yes, it is.
Who's ensuring that the animals are healthy?
And what was his?
You take away this.
What was his? Those are very good points. What was his other percentages? He said 72% livestock, and how did he break down the other?
23% was production animal.
Oh,
I believe that it went up to 100. There were two figures. One was a 72, and one was a 20-something.
Yeah, and then horses was so much.
I don't know what defined.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the hard. That is the hard part of all of this, is that, and then there's a number of, revenue is expected to be $5 million. And then the minister last week said, "Oh, well, we'll cover travel subsidies," but it's just a piecemeal. It's just dribs and drabs, and no real confidence in the people. No real confidence that they've even got a plan. But
in the decision makers, no real confidence.
Anything else you'd like to add? We're wrapping up now, Dr. Themens, on this segment. But anything you'd like to add?
Again, we're all waiting to see how this is going to evolve.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, the bottom line is that there's going to be huge gaps to fill. How long is it going to take to fill those gaps? Can we fill those gaps? And what are the repercussions of not filling those gaps? And when it comes to the lab, we're digging ourselves into a hole.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Themens, for sharing your time with us today. Up next, in the next couple of segments, we'll have Deanna Phalen from the New Brunswick Equine Association, as well as a few words from the Minister of Agriculture, Aquaculture, and Fisheries, Minister Pat Finnigan. We'll be right back.
And hello there. Welcome back to the Carr Brothers Show. It's episode 163. I'm Jack.
And I'm Jeff. Jody, of course, as we mentioned earlier, has sent his regrets. He is not feeling well today. He's got a little bit of a bug and lost his voice.
Yes, and we do miss him. We enjoy when he's on, of course. He adds a lot of value. We are talking about the New Brunswick government's decision to privatize, to, I guess, stop funding the New Brunswick Veterinary Services Program. They've given a 3-year notice. I guess we've, heard from a lot of our Facebook followers that they're very interested in our show. So we're very pleased to have the Minister of Agriculture on our show, Mr. Pat Finnigan. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us by phone.
My pleasure, Jack and Jeff.
Tell us, there's been quite a storm that has brewed since last week's announcement of the government's decision. Can you give us an update of what's, I guess, first off, why this decision was made? Let's start with that first.
Well, so this transition, as you say, it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, we're taking a measured approach here to allow time for all our provincial veterinarians and industry and other stakeholders to adapt. So, service is still available. There's no change today, and it's going to take. We're going to, as we get down the road, and we'll make sure that this is done in a timely fashion. We'll continue to engage with our stakeholders who utilize the service, of course, and many of them have communicated with us with a willingness to come to the table and work with us. That's the collaboration. That's what collaboration is all about. I can tell you that we've had many conversations with organizations such as the Alliance of New Brunswick, and there, of course, there's concerns out there, and we know that, and we acknowledge that, and we want to make it as smooth a transition as possible. But again, like organizations like New Brunswick Alliance have said that they will work with us to make this as good a transition as possible. We've had some conversation with the egg and pork farmers. Same thing. There's concern. They want to make sure that coverage remains for their operation, for their eggs, for the food safety part of it. So we're sitting down with them to have those conversations. Also the equine sector, we're meeting this week actually, because they also have concerns. So this is again, it's a transition period that's going to take some time. We want to make sure we get it right, because as some of the older politicians, you would know that this is no longer sustainable. We're going to join the rest of the country, except for for Newfoundland and ourselves. So I think it's time that we modernize and deliver a better service.
So, Minister, when we first asked you how this came about, so you've indicated near the end of your last few minutes that this is not sustainable. So tell us about how that is not sustainable, the program, and is that why this transition has come about, because staff have brought the proposal to you to let you know and government know that this is not sustainable, so it has to be transitioned to private?
Well, as you know, and as we've stated, right now only 27% of our staff cover farm food producing animals, if I can use that term, and the rest is 55% is for equine, large animals, and then another 19% would be hobby type animals.
Right.
So this is not, as you know, when this was first set up 50, 60 years ago, horses were part of the farm. Like they would pull the plow and provide the horsepower. Now it's not the case. So again, it's no longer a model that.
So is it the case that now that you're just going to focus, or the department wants to focus on food service animals and not the broader range of large animals? Is that it? Does the department believe that it's costing too much to look after all of the other categories of animals?
Yeah, cost is one thing, but it's more of a we have to look at the whole department. As you know, we presented a budget that shows that we need to make sure that the service we deliver is we can answer to the taxpayer. So we've had to look at our operation, and as we see it right now, we have to make a different model, and just tweaking it is not going to work. We want to make sure that it is a viable model. But again, just to say, this is no reflection of the work of our vets. Like, they are professional, and it's a tough decision. It was a tough decision to announce to them, and I know for them it's a game changer. It's a life changer for some of them, and that's why we want to make sure that we follow with them as they transition, if they wish, to the private model, and we're going to do all we can to support them in that. And we're confident that at the end that we'll all be in a better place and deliver a better service.
And Minister, you mentioned just a moment ago that this program is not sustainable. Now, I'm only going by what's in the news, is that this program is projected because the users of this program do pay for the services, and that it's expected to generate $5 million in revenue. How much of a loss is this program expected to have on the government books? If $5 million is generated, what is the expenditure of this program right now?
So presently, roughly the cost of the program is roughly around $8 million. Okay, that's what it costs to operate this program as is.
So $3 million shortfall. I mean, there is a
there's about $4 million in revenues. So that leaves roughly close to $4 million. That's a yearly deficit for operating that expense. And I agree with you that even the large animals, they would pay for service, but it is subsidized by the province to a point. So we do not make a profit. It is a deficit, and that's why it is not sustainable. That's one of the reasons why it's not sustainable. And just again tweaking it to make sure that if it goes to the private sector, they're going to have to make a business case out of that, and we want to make sure that we kind of get out of the way, I guess, and let the private sector deliver the service to our farmers and the large animals. And
you mentioned you've been talking to stakeholders since the budget was announced. This announcement was made. Is there any appetite to, and you're meeting with the Equestrian Association later this week, you mentioned, is there any appetite for the government to have a true alliance and have all of the stakeholders in the same room of coming up with these solutions rather than individual one-offs?
Whether they'll all be in this. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I think we might have cut a little bit, but okay. I think to your questions, we are meeting with them because they're all kind of different in their ways. Yes. Some chicken. You have the dairy people. You have the cattle and the other pork. So we're meeting with them individually. If there's a need to to have everybody in the same room, we'll certainly share the information from one group to the other. And but the Agricultural Alliance is really the umbrella group. It represents, I think, somewhere around 80% of all the registered farmers in New Brunswick. So they have a very strong voice. And just yesterday they sent me a message that they are. I think you might have seen the post.
Yeah,
they are ready to work with us. They want to make this work. they have concerns. If some of their clients have expressed concerns, which we knew, but they want to work with us to make it right and to provide a better service, and again align with the other provinces in Canada. We've had some vets I've had a vet that contacted us saying that they were going to set up shop in New Brunswick, but they knew that they wouldn't be able to compete with the public sector. So, and we're hearing right now we're seeing interest of private vets wanting to come in and fill that void and provide the service.
So, Minister, if the current situation, the current service is not sustainable because you are showing a $4 million deficit approximately every year. So if this transitions over into the private sector, and as you say, they have to build a good business case, and fees will certainly increase for veterinarians or for the farmers that require the service. Is that correct?
When you have a business set up, you're also going to have competition. So I think the price will settle where it should be. I think we'll be comparable to Nova Scotia, to PEI, to anywhere else, because it's going to be like everything else. You have to adjust with what the going price is, I guess I could say. So I think that will settle to be to be a place where they can compete with other provinces on that front.
So is everything sort of on the table as far as a solution, whether it's a nonprofit organization made up of all of the stakeholders that may run this nonprofit, or a for-profit, whether it's the veterinarians that run it, a whole other entity, a tender process for someone that might want to run a business to coordinate this? Are all the options on the table right now?
So, and that's why we're engaging with them. We're not going to really be there to say this is what you must do. We want to get out of it. But they're all professional, and they will, we'll be there to assist them, whatever model they choose. It could be a group, it could be a cooperative. We just met with someone that proposed that model just a few minutes ago. So, but again, it's going to be up to them what kind of model they want to go. Someone might just want to go with private vet clinic and say, I don't want to bother with the business. But we're going to support them. We have, as you saw in the news, we're talking with the Department of Transport and Infrastructure, where we have equipment that we're ready to offer them if they want to start their business.
So you would turn over. So basically, you have the option of turning over government assets to a private company.
Yeah, well, it'll be tender, and so we're working with DTI at this stage, and we want to put all the tools on the table, and to our, the ones that want to get into the business, everything that we have that we can offer them, whether it's equipment, whether it's support, technical or whatever, we'll be there for them, because we want to, at the end of the day, Department of Agriculture, we want to support our farmers. We want to support our
right.
Livestock sector. So we'll do everything we can to make sure that this works well at the end of the day.
So we've heard concerns and we've read concerns all over social media, obviously, and in the news reports, concerns about laboratory services and how crucial that is with pathologists, and even having access to necropsy results and things like that. So how confident are you that the laboratory services will be top notch and second to none, and at a standard that we need and deserve here for public health in New Brunswick?
Yeah. So, and to be clear, like this again, this is a transition. DAF is not, we're not stopping field veterinary service, nor are we closing the lab immediately. We have a 3-year.
Yeah, we understand that. But I mean, once you transition out of this over time, because you have a phased approach, and we can appreciate a phased approach, but how confident are you that there will be an operator that could come and take over that lab at the level that our current situation is, which is at a very high level?
Yeah, and that's what we're doing right now. We're undertaking a feasibility analysis to transfer the laboratory functions, and we'll follow that transition. And we'll react accordingly. But we know that those services are important to our farmers, and we want to make sure that they still have access. And so They have to be accredited, of course, and that's what we're pursuing. But again, we're very early in the stage of this transition. We're talking to different parties that are interested, and we want to make sure that we have top-notch service for the stakeholders of the province.
Minister, did you ever imagine that this would get this announcement would be as big as it turned out to be? Is this a surprise to you?
Yeah. No, we knew that this was going to be. Look, I'm from a farming background myself. But, I've lived through some of those storms, as you probably have. At one point they wanted to close the whole Department of Agriculture, and of course, as a farmer, I wasn't too pleased about that.
Yeah.
And it was good that But this is not what we're doing here. We're going to make sure that what we have after this is those service will be available, and it'll be as good or better than what we have now. I can relate to. The soil lab. I don't know whose government it was on that time, but I was a greenhouse grower, and we used a soil lab. But looking back, that was a great decision because we didn't have the equipment. Or now we're getting our service from PEI, and it's a timely service. The cost is certainly competitive to any other labs. We knew that this was going to be loud, but I think as we let people know what we're doing, cut through all the social media posts that come up with all kinds of stories about we're cutting everything and there's not going to be a lab and animals will die and suffer.
Well, I think, Minister, I mean, that's what happens when you just make the announcement and
no details.
Don't give the people the details. I mean, we've lived it, obviously, being on both sides of the aisle, and this isn't new. This is a transition that's been put into place different times over the past, and even in the last 10 years. It's been tried a couple of times, unsuccessful, mind you, because people in opposition or on the government side were able to come to the minister and their staff and lay the statistics and the facts out on the table. So I think you're going to probably see a lot more of that. And you would be aware that this transition has tried to happen in the past and was unsuccessful. So how confident are you that this is going to move forward and is a fait accompli?
Yeah. So. As you say, there's certainly a lot of noise, a lot of pushback out there, but again, when you look across the country, we're not putting anything that's strange or new way of doing things. It is how it's done across the country. We will be there to. I mean, nothing is set in absolute stone. We have a plan. We're going to follow it, and if after consulting all the stakeholders, there's a few things we need to adjust. We're ready to listen, but we are going ahead with this plan because it's the right thing to do. And I strongly believe it should have happened some time ago through other governments. But I think once all the stakeholders come at the table and we all move together at the same direction, we'll end up at a better place.
Well, okay, Minister. Well, we want to thank you for your time to provide a little bit of clarity, and certainly hope to have you on maybe in the future to give us some updates on this very important issue. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Minister.
Okay.
And you just heard from the Minister of Agriculture here in New Brunswick, Mr. Pat Finnigan, talking about his government's decision to privatize and the New Brunswick Veterinary Services Program. Certainly a lot of unanswered questions still remain, but a little bit of clarity on this.
A little bit of clarity, yeah. He has recognized that we've been down this path before, yes. And I mean, we've believed in the past that it was the wrong thing to do, but we'll see. He's the minister now, and he's going to have to bear those decisions. And I guess it's on him to make sure that the transition happens properly if he goes through with it. So,
and really, as well, on to the organizations, I say again, to band together. Don't wait for the government or the department to bring everyone around the table.
Right.
Get around the table and be a strong voice and a unified voice.
Exactly. So
okay, folks.
We'll see how it goes.
Thanks for joining us for this segment. We'll be back right after this with Deanna Phalen. She is the president of the New Brunswick Equestrian Association. We'll be back right after this on the Carr Brothers. Hi there. Welcome back to the Carr Brothers Show. It's episode 163. I'm Jack.
And I'm Jeff, and thank you for joining us here on CHCO this evening and all of our other providers and platforms that we use. Jack, we've had a great discussion so far. Hot topic of the last 2 weeks, the government's decision to privatize, close down, cut services, however you want to talk about it. It's basically all the same to our provincial veterinary services for large animals and livestock. The current government decides that now's the time to do the right thing. They say it's not sustainable. And this evening we have with us Deanna Phalen from the New Brunswick Equestrian Association. Deanna, you've been involved with this conversation with me and with others over the years. This is not something we've heard that's new. We've seen it tried to be applied in the past, and here we are again. But the government seems to be much more determined this time. They're dug in on it this time, and as we know, when they present these ideas or plans, historically they haven't had the data to back themselves up. They haven't had a plan going forward to back themselves up. So are you seeing anything different this time? Are you surprised by any of it?
Absolutely surprised. I agree. Here we go again. This time, I think a little differently. We were affected by the equines in early 2000, but now they're really including everyone and the cow people and the sheep and the pork and everything. And as a New Brunswicker, that worries me for my safety and of our own public safety, and then, of course, our complete herd health. And that has to be paramount for anyone that's a farmer or just a New Brunswicker, that taking care of disease and taking care of our herd should be first and foremost.
Right. So you're talking about the lab services that the province provides for large animals. If it's not operated properly, if it doesn't transition properly, then we could have an issue. It could be issues public health-wise.
Well, and we're on the chopping block right away. I mean, they're saying equines are going to be dropped December of 2026, so 9 months away, roughly 280 days away. I don't have a vet service in the greater Fredericton area. That's scary to me. I sleep well at night knowing that I can call the provincial vet if I have a sick horse. They will be there. And there are some private vets in St. John and Moncton, but they've never been attracted to come to the other parts of the province. There must be a reason for that. So for me as a barn owner in the greater Fredericton area, I'm concerned, and time is to me of the essence, that have they done their due diligence to make that deadline work? And I don't think it's a sound enough plan to make that first deadline work.
And what would the fallout be? December, let's say hypothetically, the government sticks with this, and December comes and the New Brunswick Public Vet Services are cut off for horse owners.
Well,
what would that impact be?
If I'm living in Woodstock, I would be scared to death that if I have a sick animal, do I put it in the trailer? Can I put it in the trailer and drive it to Prince Edward Island, or drive it to Sussex or St. John where there is a large animal clinic? This is not a dog or a cat that you can put in the back seat. So I'm going to have, or I need to put it to sleep. Well, who's going to do that? Do I have to call the local hunter to come and shoot my horse and put him down? He's broken his leg in the pasture. He can't be salvaged. Well, then I got to call a farmer. I mean, I've never shot a horse before. I've called the vet. They've come. They've euthanized them. I sent them to be cremated, whatever. So this is really scary. That you think that in the province of New Brunswick, in less than an hour and 15 minutes from me, that we could have some very sick animals. And who do we call? Because the private vets that are working right now in St. John, they're willing to extend their service, but they're not crazy. They're not be going to Miramichi and Woodstock. They're going to think of their area and they know their boundaries.
Their proximity.
Exactly.
And it's going to would have to make economic sense. And the minister did mention about travel subsidies in the legislature last week. But as there was someone on the news from Nova Scotia that in that province they don't subsidize horses. So there's still a lot of uncertainty there. Now, you heard the minister speak on our show. What are your thoughts of his comments?
Well, it's I don't know. He kind of put the cart before the horse, or
No
right?
pun.
I mean, he hasn't gone out and talked to any of us, which I'm just dumbfounded by.
Yeah.
He never spoke to the small animal clinic. He never talked to the large animal clinic. He never talked to anyone to say, listen, guys, let's chat about this. What do you think? Where do you see the strengths and weaknesses? Where do you think we could maybe try this out as a pilot?
Right.
There's already some large animal vets that are private in Sussex, St. John, Moncton. Maybe we could pilot this program there. But they haven't consulted. So how sound is your material when you haven't spoken to the people that are truly in that area? I'm not going to speak for the cows and the other departments. I can speak for horses. But when you want to make a sound plan, do you not think you need to bring the diverse community to the table first? And then again, we all want to work with them. But again, my deadline of December to me is creeping quite quickly. So the 20 provincial vets we have, let's say 5 of them decide to go out on their own and become private practice. Do you think they can get that organized before December? And if Dr. Downey in St. John wants to extend his practice, do you think business-wise he can make that all happen by December when they themselves have not received the statistics, the data saying, this is what we bring in for calls. This is the revenue. I mean, hopefully they will make sound business decisions, because our government right now, to me, has not made a sound business proposal.
Right.
And that makes me nervous because I find them negligent.
Isn't that a very good point that you raised? Because Jeff, with the minister, talked about as well about public health and what this does for public health and for not just farmers and not just horse owners, but all residents in the area of those farms and those proximities. But where this gives a lot of trust is questioned now.
Yes.
So where is the trust going to be there to provide the public health and provide service in the future, or oversight even?
Yeah, they've
So
lost my
it.
trust. I mean, the fact that they never called and said, "Listen, we need your help.
Right.
Come to the table and help." Right away, I'd be going, "Okay, this guy wants to work with us." But I find them very negligent, and I'm just exasperated.
So tell me this,
Exasperated.
Deanna. Sorry, Jeff.
No, go ahead.
The minister spoke about when he was given his percentages of the users, he focused on the dairy and the beef, so the cow side of things only use a small percentage of the service, and the rest is used by everybody else. But tell us, how big is everybody else? Like, for your category of the equines, how many members do you have in your equestrian association?
Well, it's not a lot. I mean, we have 2,400 members.
That's a lot.
That's a
It
lot.
is. But again, there's 12 to 15,000 horses in New Brunswick.
Right.
Wow.
So that was proven back in 2010 with a survey that was done.
Right.
Again, there's not great statistics in New Brunswick from the Department of Agriculture or anyone that can actually tell us where those 15,000 are. And wouldn't it be great if we were all in St. John, Moncton, and Fredericton?
Of course.
But we're not. New Brunswick is so large. You're inviting the whole world to come live in New Brunswick. Where are they going? They're going to the backwoods of New Brunswick to set up these lovely farms and houses and hobby farms, but you don't want to service them because that's the reality, that we're a big province, and they're inviting people to come and enjoy New Brunswick, set roots. And where are they going? They're going out to find big land property. That's not in downtown cities where the vets set up the small animal practice because they are close to the main communities.
Yes.
So they also seem to be focused on food providing services, so animals that provide food, and that's what they seem to be focused on. And I guess one could argue that is an economic driver, but tell us a little bit about the Draft Horse Association and the Equestrian Associations and how you folks drive the economy with shows and
absolutely.
expenditures.
I go through roughly 5,000 bales of hay a year. Where do you think I buy that from? I buy it from the cattle farmer. And in the years past, the horse horse population was paying more for the vet calls than the cattle. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay helping to, if I can call it, subsidize the cattle, because that's an important industry for New Brunswick. But with the 12 to 15,000 horses in New Brunswick, yes, we do use the service. I do question if they have the data that supports that we use 54% of it.
Because they've never shown you the
Well,
data.
that's just it. But again, we are using the crops again, I'm helping my local cattle guy feed his herd by him selling a large crop and percentage of that hay to the horse community. So, no, we're not plowing the fields anymore, and no, we don't eat horses, but we are part of the livestock, and people need to keep remembering that we are still, I think, jurisdictionally still categorized under livestock.
Yes.
And I think all of the livestock community certainly has a hand in this and a hand in helping to solve the problem.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the one of the key points, I guess, if anything positive of all of this that comes out. I as a citizen hope, and I see it with other departments and things like that, is that all of these stakeholders will be unified, not rely on government to bring everyone together, but amongst the stakeholders come together and be a unified super force, because a unified super force will be able to make, have your voice known and carry your weight.
Absolutely, and I was contacted by the president of the Agricultural Alliance here in New Brunswick, and I know that she is looking to rally as many of the groups, and it's true. I mean, we kind of are all in our own silos,
right.
And I don't know what they do. I don't pretend to know what they do, but when it comes to livestock, I consider them a part of my community, and what affects them affects me, and if we can somehow be better and stronger in numbers, then I want to share my provincial vet service with as many people, with as many livestock people as possible. And just through all of this, I'm just amazed about all the things the provincial vet lab and services do. The roadkill and SPCA, and it goes on and on and on, the number of things that they provide. And I am nervous about who in the private sector who is ready at the gate. I want to know the evidence that some organization is ready to step up. Again, step up where? In what part of New Brunswick? And as the president of the NBEA, I have to worry about Campbellton and Caracat and Woodstock. Again, St. John, Fredericton, and Moncton will be okay. And I say that only with Equestrian in my mind. I'm not with the cows and whatever. But I have peace of mind that my livestock in New Brunswick is well taken care of. And as a New Brunswicker, hopefully my health and my disease control is in good hands.
Well, you've hit a great point, because another parallelism with that is, well, what if the government were to announce very similar? There's tons of government programs that are quote unquote subsidized by the taxpayers that are not revenue neutral or expense neutral, so to speak. Be no different than the government saying, "Oh, we're going to privatize restaurant inspections, and we just hope for the best, and we're going to give you 9 months to find your own inspectors and things like that." So, of course, you're going to have more inspectors where the population is, but that old restaurant, 3 hours away in the backwoods somewheres, not sure if they're going to get if they're going to have public health in mind. I think I see this as a similar thing, and I don't think the government on this one. I think they're offside with saying we're just going to cut everyone loose and let them
get out of the
way.
He says,
and get out of the way.
Yeah.
They're offside on this one.
There's going to be some gaps. It's much like other parts of Canada, like in Walkerton, Ontario, when they privatized the water treatment, and it didn't get announced the contamination and that the E. coli break. So if the $5 million is going to save, what are the risks that we're going to have all of this opening with millions of dollars of lawsuits or whatever? I'm just afraid there's too many gaps to take care of New Brunswick as a whole.
And is your association opposed to increased fees?
We don't want to be subsidized.
Right.
We don't want to be subsidized. The government doesn't need to make money, but we believe it should break even. And if we have to pay more, everyone has said that. They will pay more. And they don't want to be subsidized, but we've enjoyed the service. We appreciate the service. Continue the service. And maybe you need to put some better people in there that know how to run it economically feasible. Because in the past, it was $400,000 in arrears because they weren't collecting money. So my first question is, could it be run better? And could it be closer to breaking even? And maybe this $4 million deficit is maybe just $1 or $2 million. And like you said, most departments are running at a deficit. So no, we do not need to be subsidized, and we would like to pay our fair share to keep this service available in a very unique part of Canada called New Brunswick. And I'm tired of asking or being said it's running across Canada, and why can't we do it? And I think that we're an individual province, have not, they've been said, a drive-through province. We have some challenges, and we need to get programs that work for our province, and stop telling me about the rest of Canada. I'm not really interested.
Well, Deanna, I think you've done a great job in expressing this. And, in the other, I'll just say real quick too, is, the government creates a crown corporation for every other thing that goes on in the province. And, maybe that's another solution as well, made up of stakeholders. But I guess we gotta wrap up, Jeff.
We do have to wrap it up. And Deanna, thank you so much.
Yes.
It's when you called me the other day and said, how much fight do you have left? We've been down this road. I thought, well, I'm not sure how much fight, but this is the way Jack and I and our show have decided to take on the fight, is to make people's voices heard. People that have been down this road before, and hopefully we see some results, and that the minister does lay out a plan with some data that we can all hopefully support at some point with the checks and the balances there, though, too.
That's key.
So thank you very much for being here this evening. And that was a quick 1 hour segment, 1 hour show, and we will be back hopefully next week with some more follow-up on this. So everybody, thank you for watching, and have a great week.
Good night.